In the heart of the expansive North Dakota landscape lies a testament to the courage and resilience of the American frontier spirit. This is the story of Fort Abercrombie, a bastion of defense and a symbol of hope on the northern frontier. In the heart of North Dakota, nestled near the Red River of the North, stands Fort Abercrombie, a testament to American ingenuity and resilience. Established in 1858, this fort was more than just a military installation. It was the first permanent United States military fortification in what is now North Dakota. This fort would serve as a gateway to the West for settlers eager to claim their piece of the American dream. Now let's imagine the landscape as it was back then. Uncharted territories, wild and untamed, with the Red River serving as a natural highway. Fort Abercrombie was strategically positioned on this river, providing a critical link between the bustling settlements of the east and the promising lands of the west. On August 28, 1858, Lieutenant Colonel John J. Abercrombie founded the fort that would bear his name on the flat terrain of a meander of the Red River. The initial site was abandoned on July 25, 1859 due to flood risk as construction began on higher ground along the river's western bank. The post was later reoccupied in July 1860. From its inception, Fort Abercrombie played a vital role in safeguarding American interests in the region, serving as a crucial outpost for the protection of settlers, traders, and travelers. Constructed primarily of wood and earth, Fort Abercrombie consisted of a barracks, officer quarters, a hospital, stables, and other essential structures. Its defenses included a stockade wall and a series of blockhouses strategically positioned around the perimeter. Life at Fort Abercrombie was demanding and rigorous. Soldiers underwent extensive training and drills to prepare for potential conflicts with Native American tribes and other threats to the frontier. Despite occasional tensions with the local Dakota Sioux and Ojibwe tribes, the relationship between the fort's garrison and the Native American inhabitants of the region was often one of mutual respect and cooperation. One of the most challenging periods in Fort Abercrombie's history occurred during the Dakota War of 1862. As tensions between the Dakota Sioux and white settlers escalated, the fort became a refuge for hundreds of civilians seeking safety from the violence. In 1862, conflict erupted between the Santee or Eastern Dakota and the United States in Minnesota, fueled by broken promises and encroaching white settlement. Skirmishes on August 17th resulted in significant casualties on both sides, drawing national attention. The Dakota, owed food and annuities under treaties, faced hardship exacerbated by crop failures and delayed government aid. Desperation led them to seek food credit from agency traders. Andrew Myrick was a trader on the Lower Sioux Agency in southwest Minnesota. In a meeting with Dakota leaders and the Bureau of Indian Affairs agent, Myrick made the callous remark, "So far as I am concerned, if they are hungry, let them eat grass or their own dung." Myrick's words ignited the spark of war. Can you imagine a fort under siege for more than 6 weeks? Picture this. The year is 1862 and the Dakota War has engulfed the region. Fort Abercrombie, a solitary outpost in the heart of North Dakota, becomes a focal point of the conflict. The fort, originally built to protect the wagon trails, was not designed to withstand a prolonged siege. Yet, the brave soldiers stationed there found themselves surrounded by Dakota warriors, cut off from reinforcements and supplies. For 42 grueling days and nights, the defenders clung to their resolve, repelling wave after wave of attacks. Under the leadership of Colonel Charles W. Diamond, the garrison at Fort Abercrombie bravely defended the fort against attacks by Dakota warriors, ensuring the survival of those within its walls. The siege was a test of endurance, of courage, and of the human spirit. The defenders of Fort Abercrombie held their ground, proving their mettle in the face of overwhelming odds. But the fort itself bore the scars of the conflict. It was damaged but not defeated, a symbol of the resilience that defined those who had defended it. In the aftermath of the siege, the fort was evacuated. The soldiers left behind a battered shell, a reminder of the war that had swept across the landscape. But the story of Fort Abercrombie doesn't end there. Far from it. In fact, it was just the beginning of a new chapter in its history. In 1868, the fort was rebuilt. The new structure stood as a testament to the enduring spirit of its defenders. It was stronger, more resilient, a symbol of perseverance in the face of adversity. It was a fort reborn from the ashes of conflict, ready to face whatever challenges the future might bring. The siege and rebuilding of Fort Abercrombie are more than just chapters in a history book. They are stories of courage, of resilience, and of the human spirit. They remind us that even in the face of adversity, we can stand strong, rebuild, and move forward. But the fort's trials didn't end there, they were merely the start of a new chapter. What happens when a fort outlives its usefulness? Well, in the case of Fort Abercrombie, this marked the end of an era, a poignant chapter in the story of westward expansion and the closing of the frontier. In the year 1877, the fort's active service came to a halt. The once bustling hub of military activity fell silent as the soldiers moved on, leaving behind a fortress steeped in history. The fort, having served its purpose, was decommissioned. It was as if the fort too realized that the frontier it was built to protect was gradually fading into the annals of history. Following its decommissioning, Fort Abercrombie was sold to private owners. This marked a significant shift in the fort's narrative, transitioning from a bastion of defense to a private property. The fort's towering walls and sturdy gates, which once echoed with the sounds of soldiers' boots and cannon fire, were now subjected to the quiet humdrum of everyday life. However, as the years rolled on, the fort began to fade into obscurity. The once formidable structure gradually declined, succumbing to the ravages of time and neglect. The fort, which had once stood as a symbol of resilience and determination, now stood as a ghost of its former self, a silent testament to the passage of time. Yet in this decline, we see a reflection of larger trends. The story of Fort Abercrombie mirrors the broader narrative of westward expansion and the eventual closing of the frontier. As settlers moved westward, forts like Abercrombie served as crucial outposts, providing protection and a sense of security. But as the frontier closed, these forts outlived their usefulness, becoming relics of a bygone era. The fort's active service may have ended, but its legacy was far from forgotten. Indeed, Fort Abercrombie's story serves as a poignant reminder of the complexities and contradictions of the American frontier, a chapter in history that continues to shape our understanding of the past. Can a forgotten fort find new life in a modern world? Let's turn our gaze to the 20th century, a time when Fort Abercrombie was rediscovered, not as a military bulwark, but as a symbol of our shared past, our collective memory. In the early years of the 20th century, the winds of change swept across the country, and with them came a renewed interest in the history of the American frontier. The fort, which had been all but forgotten, was once again in the public eye. But this time it wasn't soldiers marching through its gates, but historians, archaeologists, and everyday people, fascinated by the stories that the old fort had to tell. As the decades rolled on, efforts were made to restore the fort to its former glory. Skilled artisans and historians painstakingly worked to rebuild the structures, using the same methods and materials as the original builders. The goal was not just to create a monument, but to bring the past back to life, to let people walk in the footsteps of those who lived and died on that frontier outpost. In the latter part of the 20th century, the fort was designated as a state historic site. This was not just an honor, but a responsibility. Fort Abercrombie was now tasked with preserving the history of the American frontier, of telling the stories of the men and women who had lived, fought, and died there. Today, the fort plays an important educational role. Each year, countless students, history buffs, and curious visitors pass through its gates. They come to learn about the struggles and triumphs of the frontier, to understand the forces that shaped the country we know today. The fort's story continues to unfold, even in the 21st century. It stands not just as a relic of the past, but as a living, breathing testament to our history. It reminds us that our past is not something to be forgotten, but something to be celebrated, learned from, and carried forward into the future. The fort's story continues to unfold even in the 21st century. What can a single fort teach us about the complexities of history? This, my friends, is the question we've been exploring as we delved into the enthralling saga of Fort Abercrombie. Over the course of our journey, we've unraveled the enigma of its establishment, relived the suspense of the siege, and the subsequent rebuilding. We've witnessed the end of an era and its rebirth as a historic site. This fort, standing proudly on the banks of the Red River, is much more than just a collection of old buildings. It is a mirror reflecting the past, an echo of a time when the American frontier was a realm of untamed wilderness and uncharted territories. It is a symbol of the resilience and courage of the pioneers who dared to venture into the unknown, braving harsh conditions and fierce resistance to carve out a life for themselves and their families. But it's not just about the past. Fort Abercrombie continues to resonate with contemporary audiences. It serves as a tangible link to our collective history, reminding us of the sacrifices made, the lessons learned, and the spirit of determination that shaped the America we know today. And it's not just for history enthusiasts either. The fort's picturesque surroundings make it an ideal destination for nature lovers and photographers. The trails winding through the lush greenery, the rustle of leaves underfoot, the serene beauty of the Red River. It's a place where you can escape the hustle and bustle of modern life and find a moment of tranquility. So I encourage you, whether you're a history buff, a nature enthusiast, or just someone looking for a unique and enriching experience, to visit Fort Abercrombie. Walk in the footsteps of pioneers, stand where they stood, and let the echoes of the past whisper to you their tales of courage and resilience. So, next time you think of the American frontier, remember Fort Abercrombie, a testament to the resilience, courage, and enduring spirit of those who lived and served there. Hopefully you enjoyed this video, and will support the channel by liking and subscribing. That way you stay up to date on the latest posts. We are the Minutemen of History.